Okay, very good afternoon to each and everyone. I am PVS Harshan, a lecturer from the Ruhuna University, beside the coordinator of the track number 3 of technical sessions. First and foremost, on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to once again warmly welcome to you all the 5th CIPM International Research Symposium on HRM 2021, organized virtually considering the pandemic situation in the country and the world. Let me introduce the chairperson and the co-chairperson of the session on the theme of the future of the work. The chairperson, Professor HMA Herath, the head of the Department of Business Management, and the director of the Career Guidance Unit, beside the director of Master of Business Administration Program, Faculty of Business Studies and Finance, Weinberg University of Sri Lanka. Next, I would like to warmly welcome our co-chair, Dr. Jairani Ramavikrama, the senior lecturer, Department of Human Resource Management, Faculty of Management and Finance, University of Ruhuna, Sri Lanka. Dear ladies and gentlemen, this is a short notice for our audience. Please use the raise hand option if you have any question, comments, or the clarification regarding the paper presented. We will unmute you according to the order you raise your hand. Over to you, dear Professor HMA Herath.
Yes, thank you very much. I was unable to set this virtual background. Now this is the time for starting, and thank you very much for welcoming us. First of all, I would like to welcome Dr. Jairani Ramavikrama, the co-chair, and also all the presenters and other participants. Now, is this a time for us to start, sir? Yes, okay. Then today, yes, today in this session, this is the track number 3, titled as The Future of Work, chaired by myself, Dr. Jairani Ramavikrama, and the track coordinator, Mr. Sajith Harshan. In this track today, from 110 to 255, there are 7 papers to be presented. If I say the paper identification numbers, paper ID 5, 10, 22, 40, 47, number 2, and paper ID 63. I think all the presenters are ready now. Now, when we look at the mix of these papers in this track and in this session, I think we will be able to experience a very good session of presentation with a very good mix of scholarly articles, scholarly presentations. Okay, then, since you know the details and other rules and regulations, norms of the presentation, I'd like to invite the first presenter. Is Chintaka Buddhi Pereira. The title of his paper on exploring the factors that influence motivation of competent IT engineers and their impact on employee retention. Paper ID number 5. I think Mr. Chintaka Buddhi Pereira, you are ready now for the presentation, and I like to kindly invite you to make the first presentation.
Thank you, Professor. Good afternoon, everyone. I think the video will be played.
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you.
Talk about my research paper exploring the factors that influence motivation of competent IT engineers and the impact on employee retention. So let's quickly look at motivation. Motivation, as per Armstrong and Taylor, is the strength and direction of behavior and the factor that influence people to behave in certain manner. Locke and Latham observed that well-motivated people engage in positive discretionary behavior. And Armstrong and Taylor further states that in this context, there is nothing called a constant job for life. In today's context, people do not linger in emotional dilemmas prior to leaving their current employer. Factors affecting retention demographics such as age, personal circumstances, and gender have been highlighted as vital insights to understand the thinking behind a decision to retain with an organization. In this study, the researcher intended to understand the relationship which exists between motivational elements such as rewards, career progression, career security, organization culture, work-life balance, and organization direction on retaining competent IT engineers. Now let's look at a little bit about the industry. As we all know, Sri Lanka's IT industry is extremely competitive and highly skilled, dominant domain. In terms of retaining some of their skill, the industry has adopted headhunting, offering above market rates and even somewhat questionable approaches to retaining and recruiting highly skilled IT engineers. These behaviors have created an environment of tremendous stress for both HR and operations, and they feel retaining current staff is in this context becomes the most feasible manner to manage complications. For most reputed and even up-and-coming organizations that provide IT services, the realities are similar, as some of their key resources are headhunted by other competitors. As these organizations hope to expand their reach and compete with other international players, it is vital that they retain their skilled people with them. The researcher aimed to identify the relationship between the factors that could influence motivation and their impact on retention by conducting a literature review by which a conceptual framework was designed to guide the researcher in a structured manner. Now, the general objective for this study was to measure the relationship among factors that influence motivation and retention of IT or very skilled IT engineers. There were three specific objectives. One was to identify if a relationship exists between the motivational factors and employee retention. Then it was to identify which motivational factors contribute the most. And lastly, it was to identify suggestions and recommendations that we could make to the IT industry to set best-in-class practices to create industry standards to compete with international brands. Now, if you look at motivation, Farhad identifies that to achieve assured targets, individuals must be satisfactorily energetic and be clear about their destination or where they are going in life. Motivation is an internal drive that activates behaviors and gives its direction. It forces people to have specific goals and objectives. According to Raspati, motivation is needed to create quality products, which is a key to improve organization performance. Professional employees, which can be considered as skilled or knowledge-based people, add to the company's products and services by applying their knowledge. Now, when you look at furthermore into literature, it was obvious that elements such as rewards, culture, and as suggested by Tosisen, career management, and in work-life balance, the ability to work flexibly, the strategic direction that comes from the organization, as well as the strategic intent that the leadership sets in the organization are critical factors when motivating people are concerned. Also, when you look at retention, it refers to the tacit and practices or the tactics that are used to retain their best employees. Looking at this gamut of literature, the researcher came up with a conceptual framework which included rewards, organization culture, career progression, providing work-life balance, and organization direction as the independent variables, and employee retention as the dependent variable. A hypothesis was conceptualized, and an operational framework was also derived out of the hypothesis as well as the conceptual framework that was derived out of. This study had a population of 100 staff, which comprised of senior IT resources that had more than 8 years of industry exposure. Now, some of the interesting demographics are the age and the gender distribution, which 67% are male. Then in terms of the maturity, most of the respondents were about 37 years old, and they had a lot of years in terms of experience with the organization. Also, when it came to the reliability of the study or the responses, a Cronbach's alpha reliability test was carried out, and the minimum threshold, all results were above the minimum threshold of 0.70. Also, in order to understand the nature of the data, the researcher carried out a mean value analysis, which proved that most employees have more consensus on career progression, organization direction, and work-life balance, as well as there's relative agreement, consensus rather, among employees for rewards and organization culture. Now, out of the summary, what's interesting is there were strong positive relationships when it comes to career progression, providing work-life balance and organization direction. And there was a strong positive relationship between employee motivation and employee retention, while moderate positive responses were received for rewards and organization culture. In order to validate the objectives, I would like to present the conclusions and the recommendations. So the researcher was able to identify that a strong positive relationship exists between motivation factors and retention. Out of this, there were 3 factors which contributed the most. That was career progression, providing work-life balance, and organization direction, which all had very strong positive responses. And in terms of recommendations, employee rewards, organization culture, in order to enhance employee rewards, enhancing or introducing a competency-based pay, providing of performance-linked bonuses, in terms of the culture, mechanism to recognize and encourage positive behavior such as awards, retention facilities and recreational facilities and activities, corporate strategic retention strategies, gift schemes were derived out of. Then in terms of career progression, career mapping exercises, job redesigning, introducing commonly used job redesigning strategies, introducing dual career ladders were identified as value additions for career progression. In terms of providing work-life balance, developing more effective managerial strategies, developing flexible work systems, work-life conflict management processes, and introducing employee satisfaction surveys. Organization direction, if you are to improve that or to enhance that, it was recognized to leverage high-impact leadership practices, building a strong understanding of business strategy, and make use of preferred skills within the organization as effective degree of autonomy. These were the findings and the recommendations out of this particular study. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chintaka, for your presentation.
Thank you, Professor.
Now this is the time for starting the discussion and question and answer session. First of all, I would like to invite from the audience, if there are problems and clarifications or other opinions of this specific area or this specific study. If there are any clarification, please raise first from the audience. Yes, it seems that there are no any comments or clarifications from the audience. Then I would like to invite first our co-chair of this session, Dr. Jairani.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Then Mr. Chintaka,
Hi, Doctor.
I appreciate your presentation. Then however, then there are, I appreciate it is interesting for me. However, there are some shortcomings also.
Sure,
Then
sure.
I will mention at the first beginning. Then when you prepare slides, then it is too loaded slides. Then it is too difficult to read to the audience.
Sure,
then,
sure.
Then you need to mention only the point form when
Sure.
you prepare slides. So it is a large font size, and then you need to manage it properly. Preparation of the slides is poor. Then the topic of your study include as exploring the factors. When I think about the exploring the factors, it is like a qualitative study. Then you are going to measure the relationships.
Yes.
Measuring the relationship. Then the exploring, when we mention the exploring, you are conducting the factors affecting to employee retention. In factors affecting to their retention intention, like study. But the exploring is too vast, qualitative type of study.
Sure.
Therefore,
Sure.
then little bit, I think it is needed to change. If you further develop this study, then I suggest to change
Sure,
your
sure.
topic. Then when I consider your hypothesis, then generally we use only the alternative hypothesis. No need to mention the null hypothesis. H0,
Right.
then it is no need. H1 is sufficient according to my perception. Then further, then your conceptual framework. Then I considered the factors, then the motivation. There is a vast concept. Yeah? Then the work-life balance, vast concepts. These concepts, then when you have measured the motivation from 3 question items. 3 question items. Then I think then it is too poor, difficult to measure this kind of vast concept from 3 questions. Therefore, actually, I am not agree with. There are a number of independent variables here. And if you limit your independent variable, I think it is better.
Sure. All right. Understood. Understood.
Yeah. Then limited number of independent variable with the dependent variable.
Sure.
Then,
sure.
Yeah. Then it is okay, Professor. Then
Thank you, Doctor, for your feedback.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jairani. And Mr. Chintaka.
Yes.
I have some clarity while appreciating your work on this area.
Sure, Doctor.
I have some clarifications. First of all, I have a different question. Why do you want to select this topic, this title, while there are other areas to be covered? Why specifically? Or in other words, I'm asking, what is your motivation on selecting this particular area?
Sure. There were 2 main factors, Professor, that kind of led me to look at this particular area, because this is an industry that I very closely work with as well as a consultant for this particular industry. And one of the biggest issues, or probably the biggest issue that we have at the moment, is that just a little bit of statistics. I'm sure you all are aware of it. If you compare India, there are 16,000 IT graduates who leave the university every year, but in Sri Lanka there's roughly around about 3,500. But in terms of an industry, this is a 5 billion targeted industry in Sri Lankan rupees by actually we are in that particular year right now. So, however, we have a huge issue in terms of one thing is we don't have skilled people coming in, not sufficient number of people coming in. Plus, when they do come in, it takes about good 5 to 6 years or maybe around 8 years for someone to get competent in terms of that particular industry because of the technology and how fast the technology changes. And then for an organization to reach its full potential, it takes about 10 years. So when you look at it in that context, some of the people that an organization will start with, their initial startup staff, they will not have by the time they reach full potential and when they start gaining more value added businesses. So
okay,
if you
okay, Mr. Chintaka, now
Sure.
as you say, there may be a problem of retaining IT professionals, competent IT professionals in this industry.
Sure.
Do you have any evidences for this, any statistical evidences to prove that there is such a problem in this particular industry in Sri Lanka?
I don't have the, I won't be able to show you the stats right now, Professor, but SLASCOM every year, they actually publish their yearly findings in terms of the industry as a whole, that covers the IT industry as well and the BPO industry as well. So according to their statistics, Professor, one of the biggest concerns that all organizations have is actually retaining people, mainly because most of them actually leave the country as well. That's one of the statistics.
All right. Okay. Then it is better when you are making a presentation because you are going to defend your piece of work, right?
Yeah.
Then the readers or the other people would like to know that whether there is a real problem.
I understand.
To research.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Then otherwise your experience or your opinion, your self opinion is not worthy at the research.
Understood.
Therefore,
Understood.
you have to be objective and present the related evidences for this.
Understood.
Otherwise,
thank you.
Yeah, right. Then my another question is actually clarification, Mr. Chintaka. You are especially in your sample, there are competent IT professionals.
Sure.
Are you categorize the IT professionals into a category as competent?
How do I do it? Is it, Doctor?
Yeah.
Okay. So the industry standard, if you look at the IT industry, it goes beyond a mere qualification because what happens with the industry is you basically would start off with a BSc. But I think
okay,
I understand. I think I understand what you're trying to say. Where is the statistical information that was presented?
No,
right?
I'm not talking about the statistical information. Is there any categorization accepted by this particular industry, such as competent IT professionals and IT professionals below that? Is there accepted categorization in this industry? Or that is your own opinion?
No, there are certain, depending on the technology that you use, there are certain categorizations. I could have probably presented that would have made it a little bit more clear, I guess.
Okay. Because one can raise a problem that how you categorize the IT professionals as competent or non-competent or less competent, right?
Sure.
It's a vague idea, somewhat vague. Okay.
All right. All right, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Then my last question is, how did you find this independent variables? The way you find them, that may be through a literature review, but when we are doing a literature review, there may be more and more factors that come out from a literature review that we can use as the independent variables to find out the effect or the relationship on the dependent variable. Among such number of, because in the IT profession, in the IT industry, there may be, in addition to the motivation, there may be another number of factors that may be affecting their intention to leave.
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
Then among such number of factors, what was the basis for selecting these motivational factors? Is there any justification for you to present here? for selecting these particular variables.
In terms of limiting it to 5, is it?
Not limiting, but limiting to these motivational factors, while there are other so many factors in the industry that may affect.
Sure, I understand. One factor that was one factor that led me to kind of stick to these elements was the literature review that I did. That when I did the literature review, the information that I came across, it was more towards these factors than the other factors. But as you say, maybe if I had expanded my literature review, there could have been other factors which would have, could have probably even been at a higher level.
Okay, this is just for a clarification.
Sure.
In the IT industry, I have also done a few research on these IT professionals with some of my students.
Sure.
What I found is this is merely from leaving one organization to another. Just for leaving the profession or for leaving to another country, or that is not the situation as I understood. All right.
Sure.
They leave especially from the package or other benefits offered by another company. They will try to move from company to company. Is that true? Is that the situation? As you studied?
Professor, from the research that I understood, what I understood, that there were 3 factors when it comes to senior people. When I say senior people, I mean people who are competent in the subject matter area. That actually, that they tend to stay with an organization because mainly of those 3 factors. In my work life, what I have noticed is when they're at a certain age, they tend to leave in line with the factor that you mentioned in terms of the purely a salary, not necessarily because of the technical skill or the competency of that organization. But as they grow older and life becomes a bit more, you have more commitments, I guess. They tend to look at other factors as well. That's my personal experience, of course.
Okay, right. Thank you. Okay, then I appreciate your effort, Mr. Chintaka.
Thank you, Professor.
I expect some of the weaknesses that you find out today may be avoided in your future studies.
Thank you for that feedback. Appreciate it.
This is what you should do as young people. It is unless you are academic, it is better if you can add something to the existing knowledge. That's a responsibility of all young people who are educated. Thank you very much for.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you.
Yes, this effort. Okay. Right.
Dear Professor, this is gentle reminder. The paper ID number 10, your presenter TD Veerasinghe is another session, and he is now presenting another paper and another presentation at the track number 2. I kindly request you to move that Mr. TD Veerasinghe, paper ID number 10 at the last.
Okay, sure. Okay, then thank you very much, Ms. Chintaka. And next, let me invite the next presenter who is bearing the paper ID 22, right? That is Ms. Dulanjali Manuvira. Paper ID number 22. She's going to present on the glimpse into the evolving future of work, preparing HRM for times of crisis in the future.
Yes.
I think Ms. Dulanjali, you are ready for your presentation.
Yes, Professor.
And I kindly invite you to start your presentation. Right, Dulanjali, you can start now.
Welcome everyone to the 5th International Research Symposium. My name is Dulanjali Munavira and I'm currently a student at CIPM. So the topic for my presentation is a glimpse into the evolving future of work, preparing HRM for times of crisis in the future. Before I start, I like to move on to this saying of Peter Drucker, the best way to predict the future is to create it. Being HR practitioners, it is very well known by everyone that are present here today that HR departments today have a responsibility to plan for future in order to take advantages of the opportunities presented by the trends we are seeing today, as well as to successfully face the challenges that are caused upon on businesses by the macro environment. So today I like to discuss about these challenges that a company should be prepared for in the light of a global crisis. Let me quickly go through my content. So what I want to share with you today is the background of my study, research problem, research questions, research objectives, some main points from my literature review, methodology employed, discussion of findings, conclusion that I came up with, and the recommendations suggested to be practiced. Now let me start by giving you some background information. So as we are all aware, a greater attention is given to global crises due to their adverse impact on the developing future of work, especially with regard to human resources. Business organizations as well as employees are constantly shaken by these unruly forces such as global crisis. COVID-19 outbreak being elucidated as the global crisis of our time and the greatest challenge, it is revealed that more than 200 nations, including Sri Lanka, have been experiencing a significant impact on their businesses, plunging the global economy into worse due to this crisis. Therefore, HR being the core of any organization, I like to signify from my study how HRM should be prepared for the evolving future of work where there exists crises which have to be fought. Moving on to my research problem, as it is already been said, it is not a secret that global crises such as COVID-19 have been wreaking havoc on the global economy, although organizations are seeking for new solutions. For the implications COVID-19 has, especially for HRM, it must be noted that lack of preparation for future risk had led organizations to convulsion. That being said, this study seeks to look into the challenges encountered by the businesses in terms of HR to examine whether Sri Lanka is tackling the issue successfully with comparison to other countries in order for the organization excellence to be continued in worse situations. Turning our attention now to my research questions, as you can see, the research questions of my study are: what are the biggest challenges encountered by HR professionals during the times of crisis? What are the ways HR professionals have responded to the changes and challenges that have arisen with global crisis? What are the future plans that can be made as a response to the challenges of global crisis and to prepare HRM for the building of a better future of work in times of crisis? And what are the best practices that can be recommended to confront crisis situations successfully? In the next section, my research objectives are presented that are to identify the challenges encountered by HR professionals during the times of crisis, to demonstrate the way that HR professionals have responded to the changes and challenges that have arisen with global crisis, to assess the future plans to face challenges of global crisis, to make recommendations to implement the best practices in Sri Lanka in terms of HRM to manage global crisis and continue organizational excellence. Now, I like to go through some important literature that encompass the foundation of knowledge on my topic. HRM is considered to be the most significant asset in the corporate world. The performance of every organization relies upon how this asset is managed through HRM practices. As of late, the COVID-19 pandemic has been depicted as the global crisis that has made demanding conditions for HR managers With regard to dramatic changes all throughout the world because of the pandemic, organizations are in the need to respond and adjust to the modifications and likewise deal with the workforce. It is contended that organizations need to prepare HRM for further changes and turbulence times, since HRM has a significant role in assisting employees with conquering the troubles brought by the unexpected changes in the working environment as well as in the society. Methodology, just to give you an overview about how the research was carried out, I have employed a blend of both library and comparative research methodologies. The studies consisting with the data obtained through secondary sources such as journals, articles, websites, and through the comparative analysis of the jurisdictions of Singapore and US. Selection of this methodology was due to the nature of the research question and due to the limited sources, since global crisis subjected in my study is a newly discovered pandemic. Turning our attention now to the discussion of findings, it will be covering three main points that are the impact of COVID-19 on HRM, challenges of HR practitioners in light of COVID-19, and encountering COVID-19 through HRM practices. Firstly, when talking about the impact of COVID-19 on HRM, according to the findings, some of the notable disruptions HRM have had to encounter are due to the impact on recruitment and selection, employee training, performance management, and compensation management. Secondly, when looking at the top challenges of HR professionals in light of COVID-19, that have made HRM struggling during the crisis of pandemic can be demonstrated as challenges of employee health and well-being, challenges of managing remote work, absence of agility, challenges of communication, uncertainty, and challenges of employee productivity and engagement. Finally, based on the findings, we'll now present how COVID-19 has been encountered through HRM practices in Singapore and US. Through the actions such as rolling out tech tools, continuous check-ins, digital learning, help on the home front, worker well-being, and sentiment polls, Singapore has been able to keep their employees productive and engaged, while US has followed, allowing to stay home without penalty, requiring paid sick leaves, free therapy sessions, employee relief fund, short store hours, virtual hiring, managing with flexibility and empathy, and has emerged strongly from the pandemic crisis situation. In conclusion, let me sum up my presentation with following main points. This study has shed light upon a crucial issue the world is confronting today, which is COVID-19 outbreak. It is proved that HR department being the heart of any organization, HR professionals have to play a dual role by taking care of the human resources of an organization while ensuring proficient business results. However, as the study highlighted, it is evident that due to lack of preparations for unexpected shocks that could occur in the future by the HR professionals, there have been many adverse impacts on business organizations, particularly upon HRM, employees, and the overall economy of nations. Based on the findings, it can be concluded that effective crisis management is crucial in times of crisis for business organizations and employees to be less affected, and that the role thinking and planning for better future of work in terms of HR should be excellently played by HR professionals. That brings us to the end of my presentation. So on the final note, I like to finish my presentation with the HR actions that were recommended by the study in order to encounter the present adverse impacts as well as the impacts that could be caused in the future by crisis, jeopardizing the long run of the businesses. So the recommendations as follows: prioritizing employee well-being, accelerating digital HR during and post-crisis, investing on training employees for remote working, pay cuts instead of layoffs in terms of pay management, creating employee resource groups, becoming a financially resilient HR organization, developing agility within the HR organization, checking with the EAP and health plan. Since my time is now just up, so to finish, I'd like to sincerely appreciate all of you for your time and attention today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dulanchali Munavira. for your presentation on a very timely title and a timely piece of study. First of all, I'd like to give the opportunity for the audience if there are any clarification from Ms. Dulanjali on her study.
Sorry, Professor, can you please repeat?
Yes. Yes, Dulanjali.
Can you hear me, sir?
Oh, yes, yes, we can hear.
Yes, sorry, sir, can you repeat what you just said?
No, I am asking for the audience, from the audience.
Oh, yeah.
To make any comment or clarification from you, from Ms. Dulanjali. Can you hear me?
Yes, Professor, we can hear you.
Okay.
Professor, I have one question. Is it okay if I go ahead?
Yeah, sure.
Dulanjali, in your particular study that you did you come across any significant areas in terms of your in terms of the recommendations and the conclusions for Sri Lanka, like any, like maybe one or two things that we have done?
Sorry, actually, I'm unable to have the virtual background. Is that okay, Professor?
Okay, no problem. You can proceed.
Yeah. So in Sri Lanka, they have implemented EAP and health plans for employees, and for some organizations have been able to create resource groups in order for the betterment of the well-being of employees, for their mental well-being, and yeah, when it comes to EHRM, so most of the organizations have implemented their recruitment and selection training programs through electronic HRM, and as well as since it's the new normal now, most of the organizations have developed e-learning platforms for their employees to work from their homes. Yeah.
Okay, Dulanjali, thank you. Just wanted to get that insight. Thanks a lot for that.
Okay, any other comment or clarification from the audience, please? No, okay. My next invitation to our co-chair, Dr. Jairani Ramikron.
Yeah, okay, Professor. Then Ms. Dulanjani, your presentation is very nicely present. And as mentioned by the professor, it is very recent topic, very important. Then I like to know about from you. Then what can you explain your research gap? And how you define your problem?
Yeah. So I have used the methodology of library research methodology. Since it's a newly discovered pandemic, there are very limited sources that I could found, like scholarly articles, journal articles, there are few. So one of my limitations with regard to research methodology is that, and my study is based on this particular global crisis, which is the most recent one. All around all countries are facing today, and there are a limitation with regard to statistical data as well.
Yeah. Then from our country context, then you have no any evidence. Then need to present some evidence for the reason for studying this. Then what about then how you are going to generalize your study? Did you consider a particular sample or data collection or sampling techniques? In what kind of things you applied?
I applied qualitative data collected from library methodology, and I did a comparative analysis between the jurisdictions of Singapore and US.
Yeah, only secondary data, not the primary data
Yes,
collection.
Only no, ma'am, just secondary data.
Yeah. There is a particular limitation with your study,
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Then accordingly, then we have to consider the findings are low level of the generalizability. Then, however, we appreciate your effort. Then okay, thank you, Professor. Then,
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jairani.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Dulanjali.
Yes.
Ms. Dulanjali, you have selected a timely topic for study.
Yes.
But I have few clarifications while appreciating your selection at this moment for study, right? I guess you are a student of CIPM, okay?
Yes, yes, Professor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then your study is the future of work, right? Now, this is the biggest challenge faced by the human resource experts in the future, even
Yes.
not under this type of COVID-19 pandemic. And however, with the coming technology, future of work would be uncertain. However, your study is limited only to the work of this COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes.
Is it?
Yes, yes.
Right. Then you have divided when you are talking about your objectives. You have divided your study into three major areas. Now, under the number one, under the COVID pandemic, what are the available threats, right? Am I correct?
Yes, Professor.
Second one, how currently organizations or human resource managers or managers face these threats under the pandemic era.
Yes.
Okay. Third one is what are the plans? What are the future plans to face such problems?
Yes.
Okay.
Professor.
Then when I see your discussion, I did not find a direct focus on these three areas. I was unable to find out what are the exact problems, available threats you have find out in this pandemic situation. And I was unable to find out exactly under your discussion how the current managers or the current organization faced these, as you said, as you yourself said, face these threats. And also I was unable to find out what are the plans. Then what I saw was, what I felt was that your objectives are not aligning with what you have discussed. Have you any justification on this?
So the discussion of my findings are divided into these three main topics. So under each HR functions in my study, I have provided how what are the particular issues, like if we take employee recruitment and selection. I have stated that most of the recruitment of new employees have been reduced, and as well as the companies have decided only to hire only temporarily contract to carry out only the ongoing projects. Likewise, I have provided few examples under each topic for the issues.
How, for
and then-
example, if we take the recruitment as you
Yes.
indicated here, what
Yes.
is the shape of the threat regarding the recruitment faced under this COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, yes, Professor. So I have
From the
also
perspective of organizations, right?
Yeah. So, sir, I have also identified that organizations' recruitment of face-to-face assessment of job candidates have been difficult, and physical verification of documents. And so so likewise, the selection procedure during the outbreak has not been entirely possible. Yeah.
That means what it implies is that the correct person cannot be selected for an organization under this particular pandemic time. Is that
Yes,
your...
due to the... Yes, Professor.
Okay, then if we take the same example, how they face it? Yes, how they face it.
Yeah, for the as solutions for these issues, I have provided the solutions and the practical implications.
Excuse me, please. Please mute your microphones. Who are speaking there? It's disturbing.
Dear Professor, we are muted.
Okay. Right. Yes, Dulanjali. Dulanjali, any clarification on this?
Yes, sir. When I compare the jurisdictions of Singapore and US, I have provided that Singapore has developed digital learning platform. So I have provided under the practical implications of my study that Sri Lanka, the organizations of Sri Lanka should create employee resource groups that could provide information regarding the recruitment and selection procedures for the employees as well as to the organizations to how to implement this through HRM, electronic HRM, to use such methods and to make aware the candidates about how the selection procedure will be carried out through the electronic platform. Likewise.
Okay, Ms. Dulanjali. While appreciating your work, I'd like to mention two main weaknesses, weak points of your study.
Yes.
That's only for the future improvements in your piece of work in the future.
Yes.
The number one is that you have limited your data collection only to the secondary data.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And also you have done some comparative study, right?
Yes.
Then why you have limited only to the secondary data? Because there were some opportunities for you to use some e-form to get the feedback from the managers today. Though this is a pandemic situation, all right?
Yes, I understand.
Then that is one of the weaknesses that is affected to your research outcomes, the reliability of your research outcomes, right?
Yes. Yes.
And also the, as Dr. Jairani said, for the generalizability of your findings. Okay. Then that is one of the weakness, because you all have limited. This kind of study can't be done easily with these. It's difficult actually to do with only by using a desk study. You
Yes,
have to get it. Yes, you have to get into the field, whatever the limitations are, right?
Yes, I understand.
And second one is regarding your presentation, though you have find out number of things, you have found out number of things related to your timely title. What I felt was that you have not presented in a way that they are highlighted. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Because very crowded slides were there, but in an attractive way you have to find. When I question you, I realized that I also missed some of your findings. I believe that this is not my fault because you have not presented it in a way that I can catch up them.
Yes, sir.
Therefore, these two things, and the first one is very, very important when you are doing such a study. The generalizability is very important, right? And therefore, collecting data, trying to collect data as much as possible in the contrived scenario, that would be better. That would improve the reliability of your findings and also the whole entire research.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then thank you very much, Ms. Duranjali, for
Thank
your
you,
contribution in this kind of very important conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Then let me introduce the next presenter. Yes, after Dulanjali Manuvira, I would like to introduce the paper numbering number 40. The title is The Effect of Work-Life Balance on Employee Performance of a Customer Experience Associate. The effect of a work-life balance on employee performance of a Customer Experience Associate. Presented by E.H. Vihangi Amanda de Silva. I think, Vihangi, you are ready now for the presentation. Vihangi, can you hear me?
The respectable sir and the madam, on behalf of the organization committee, that the student is not producing the video, as well as she is not in the presentation as well.
Okay, we can. That means we can go to the next.
We can skip.
Okay, right. Yes. Ms. Vihangi Amanda de Silva is not presenting. Therefore, we can move on to the next presenter and the presentation. That is the paper ID number 47. Paper ID number 47. The title, Job Satisfaction and Employee Turnover Intention of Administrative Staff of a Bank in Sri Lanka. The study done by Vasana Vijayasinghe. I would like to invite Vasana for you to start your presentation. I think you are ready.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Vasana Vijayasinghe. My paper is about the job satisfaction and employee turnover intention of administrative staff of a bank in Sri Lanka. Actually, every bank expectation is to shine in any economy. In order to face this challenge, bank needs competent staff. Not only the banks, any organization in any sector would need skillful, knowledgeable, talented staff to achieve their expected goals. I would say staff is the Key or staff is the asset in any organization. Moving on to the purpose of this study, the problem identification was this particular bank administrative level staff had a major issue in leaving the bank. So I have shown the 5 years statistical data where the total number of 120 staff and the number of staff turnover in each year. So this was the problem they had in this bank where the staff is, the highest number of staff is leaving from the administrative category per year. Moving on to the objectives, we set up 3 objectives for the study. First one was to analyze the degree of job satisfaction of the employee category under the study in the bank. And the second objective was to analyze the degree of employee turnover intention of the staff category under the study in the bank. And the last objective was to analyze the effect of job satisfaction of the staff category under the study on its labor turnover intention. Moving on to the literature review, actually this is a great area. So there had been several researches done in this area. Some are on the job satisfaction, some are on turnover, or else the combination of job satisfaction and turnover. So if you, I have put down here a very few researchers, but if you look at overall, there are many research done in these areas. Moving on to the methodology, there are 5 independent variables, including mediator variable and dependent variable. The independent variables are pay, recognition, growth, responsibilities, and relationship with the supervisor, and the mediator variable was the job satisfaction. And turnover intention was the dependent variable. Continuing the methodology, the data collection method used for this study was the questionnaire. This questionnaire was the 5-point Likert scale questionnaire with 42 close-ended questions, and questions were measured by 3 to 5 indicators. For example, if you take pay, then the basic salary, allowances, incentives, and recognition, the number of awards and number of rewards, and the growth is number of promotions, etc. And there were hypotheses also. Altogether, there were 11 hypotheses. The data gathering method was the convenience sampling, because with the limited time available for this study, that was the best sampling method we had that time to go for the convenience sampling. So there were total 112 staff, out of which 40 staff were chosen for this study on this convenience sampling. And staff profile was mix of gender, departmental composition, and the number of years of service in the current position. And moving on to the data analysis and results, the reliability analysis, descriptive analysis, correlation analysis were done. And coefficient of, under the reliability analysis, coefficient of contact alpha was more than 0.7. So for the independent variables, and turnover intention and the job satisfaction. So under the descriptive analysis, out of 5 independent variables, the responsibility shown as the highest mean value of 19.91. The question related to this responsibility was that are you often expected to do things that are not given in the job description? And this question scored the highest mean value of 4.05 and the standard deviation of 0.959. And then the lowest mean value was scored by the growth, and the related question was the promotion is based on the job performance, and which 1.5 scored in this question, and the standard deviation was 1.05. The correlation analysis, the correlation coefficient shown positive for all independent variables, and correlation coefficient of pay and responsibility are statistically significant. The strongest positive significant association shows between responsibility and the turnover intention. Continuation of the data analysis and results, and there was a positive correlation between pay and turnover intention. And the coefficient of correlation was 0.216 and 0.1, the significant level. Under regression analysis, the regression coefficient of the regression is the relationship with the supervisor and the then this was statistically significant, and the regression coefficient of pay growth and responsibility was statistically insignificant. And under the data analysis and results, the hypothesis testing were done, as I told you before. The coefficient of multiple regression analysis were used to test the hypothesis in the present study. Under the findings, and there are many findings in this study, and this investigation between the job satisfaction and the turnover intention of this administrative level, that the four hypotheses were supported in this study. The first one was the if regression is high, then the employee turnover intention is low. And the second one was if number of help increased by the supervisors, the employee intention was low. And then the job satisfaction significantly mediates the relationship between the recognition and turnover intention. And the fourth one was the job satisfaction significantly mediates with the relationship with the turnover intention. And the results showed that this bank, the staff, administrative staff category, there were no procedures in place and lack of training programs in order to grow the career of the staff, and the many favoritism shown among management and the staff, and also the lack of communication. It was particularly shown that the communication was top-down communication and not the bottom-up communication. So, moving on to the conclusion, this the study results showed that there's a significant relationship with the job satisfaction and the turnover intention. The researcher advised the bank that the management should focus on both extrinsic and intrinsic values of the staff to retain employees for a longer period in the bank. So under the references, there are several references listed, but I have mentioned a few references here. Thank you very much for listening my presentation, and also I would like to take this opportunity to thank the CIPM management and the staff who involved in this symposium. Once again, thank you all.
Right, okay. Thank you very much, Vasana Vijayasinghe, Ms. Vasana Vijayasinghe, for your nice presentation on the title of job satisfaction and employee turnover intention of administrative officers in a bank. All right, let's first invite the audience for the clarifications or questions. Yes, it seems there are no. Okay, then we can move to our co-chair, Dr. Jairani Ramvikrama.
Okay, Professor. Then Ms. Vasana, thank you for your nice presentation. I appreciate your presentation. However, there are several weaknesses I found. When I think about your study, then there are three main variables. Then what are the three main variables of your study?
I'm sorry, can you come back to me? I'm not feeling well today, so please repeat your question, ma'am.
Yeah, Ms. Vasana, there are three main variables in your study.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there were 5 independent variables, 1 mediator variable, and 1 dependent variable.
Then, yeah. Then, if we go to the methodology, then how did you analyze the your study? What are the techniques you applied to analyze?
Well, this was a quantitative study, and it was on the analysis methods for descriptive analysis, regression, coefficient analysis, and so on.
Yeah, then according to my understanding, then I think professor also will agree with me. Then you haven't analyzed the mediating effect among the variables. Then I couldn't find then the mediating effect. Then we need to apply the Sobel test or another process SPSS like that is advanced technique we need to analyze to measure the mediating variable. Then it is limitation with your study.
Right.
Yeah. Further, then in your topic also only mention the two main variables.
Okay.
Then your topic job satisfaction and turnover intention.
Yes.
They not mention about the independent variable.
Right.
Then it is a particular level vague your study topic. Then when we consider about the sampling technique, what is the sampling technique?
Well, actually, this is an empirical study and for a particular bank. And so that sampling method was a convenient sampling with the limited time given for the research. And so it was randomly selected.
Yeah, and then when we select the convenient sampling, usually we use for the qualitative type studies. Then however your sampling also, then I think it is not so good, the convenient sampling, as well as the sample size also too limited, only 40 members.
Yes.
When it is
because we totally had only 112 staff there, so that is why it was very small sample.
Yeah. Then okay, Professor. Then thank you, Ms. Vasana.
Thank you, madam. Thanks, and your comments are very valuable. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Vasana. Your presentation is appreciated.
Thank you.
There are a number of clarification from my side regarding your study. Can you please again show me your research model? Can you share it again? Yes, can you do that? Can you show me the research model slide with the research model?
You want me to share my screen? I have no facility for that.
Okay, right. You yourself did not share your presentation?
I did, but right now it's difficult. I think it was controlled by someone else.
Okay. As far as I can remember, you had in your research model, you had 5 independent variables.
That's
Am
right.
I correct?
That's right.
5 independent variables starting from pay, recognition, and another 3.
Yes.
In addition to that, you have linked your independent variables to a mediating variable.
Yes.
That is job satisfaction. Am I correct?
Yes, mediator was the job satisfaction. Yes.
Then finally, your dependent variable was intention to leave.
Yeah.
Intention to leave.
Yes.
Right. Then can you tell me, based on this model, how many objectives that you have shown in your study, and also how many hypotheses you have tested based on this model? Because there are 5 independent variables, 1 mediator, and also 1 dependent variable. What are your objectives?
There were 3 objectives. objectives. One was to analyze the degree of job satisfaction of the employee category under this particular place.
Yes, number one.
Yeah, that was the first objective. There were only three.
Yes,
And
number one. Please tell me the number one.
The first objective was to analyze the degree of job satisfaction of the employee category.
Degree of job satisfaction. Okay.
Yeah. Two was the degree of turnover intention of this particular category.
Degree of turnover intention.
Turnover intention.
Right.
And then the
Number
third
three.
one was to analyze the effect of job satisfaction of the category under the study in the bank on its labor turnover intention. That both together.
No, it's not clear. Number third.
Last one was to analyze the effect of job satisfaction of the staff category in this
Right. Effect of job satisfaction on
of the staff, this particular staff category.
Right.
Is the administrative staff category in the bank on its labor turnover intention.
Effect of job satisfaction on turnover intention.
Yes, of the staff, it's the labor turnover intention.
Right. How many hypotheses you have tested?
I remember testing 11, yeah.
11 hypotheses.
Yes.
Okay, then what's the method you have used to, what's the statistical tool you have used to analyze data?
What I remember, it was SPSS.
No, that is Ms. Vasana, that's a package.
Yes.
Right. What I'm asking is, what is the statistical tool?
It was analyzed on the descriptive analysis method.
Yeah, descriptive analysis first for finding out the degree of job satisfaction and degree of turnover intention, but for finding out the effect, what's the tool you used?
That is regression analysis. I mean, all these things were mixed actually.
No. I'm asking for finding out the effect. There should be a particular statistical tool. Because you can't find out the effect from measuring the degree of job satisfaction, degree of turnover intention. There should be a specific tool for measuring the effect of some X variable on Y variable. What is that tool? Yes, you have run regression analysis.
And descriptive analysis and coefficient analysis.
Coefficient analysis means the correlation.
Yes,
oh.
correlation analysis.
What about the regression analysis?
Regression analysis also done.
Done. To find out what?
That is regression analysis was done to find out the relationship.
No, that is a correlation. You do not need to do the regression analysis for finding out the correlation, right? You have done the correlation analysis, Pearson correlation analysis for finding out the correlation. But here, in your third objective, you are talking about effect. Effect cannot be measured by using the correlation analysis. Okay. Effect of independent variables on dependent variable, effect of independent variables on your mediating variable. Then can you tell me what do you mean by a mediator?
Well, mediator variable was the job satisfaction here, because why we fixed the mediator variable, because we had 5 independent, I may be wrong, or but this is how I thought when I was doing the research. To set up 5 independent variables, there got to be a mediator variable as well, because 5 independent variables, as per my thinking, it's connected to the job satisfaction, sir. So I thought
normally, Ms. Vasana, when you are doing a research, especially a quantitative research, as you have done,
yeah,
you have to think your opinion and the research study is something different. your opinion shouldn't be included in the study. Your opinion has no value in quantitative research. All right, because that may be your opinion. There may be another opinion regarding the same question by another person.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Therefore, you cannot say that is regarding your opinion. However, what I want to highlight here that you have selected somewhat comprehensive, complex research model, but your analysis, for example, you can set here your objectives and hypotheses, mainly how the 5 independent variables effect on job satisfaction, right? That is, there are 5 objectives.
Okay.
In addition to that, you can find out how, according to your, I'm talking about based on your research model, right?
Okay.
There are 5 objectives there. Then another 1 objectives can be built up on the effect of job satisfaction on turnover intention.
Okay.
Right. In addition to another 5 hypotheses or objectives can be built upon your mediating variable.
Okay.
To find out whether there is, for example, to find out whether there is a mediating effect of job satisfaction on the relationship between pay, your first independent variable, pay and intention to live.
Mm-hmm.
In that way, there may be 5
Okay.
mediating variables, mediating hypothesis or objectives.
Okay.
But I did not find any mediating hypothesis or objectives in your study.
Right.
And by using the regression analysis, though you have used the regression analysis, I did not find any analysis on the mediating effect of the job satisfaction on the relationship between 5 independent variables and the dependent variable turnover intention.
Okay.
Right, those are the lacking parts. Right, I have selected a good title and research topic, but the justice you have done to the research model that have been selected cannot be actually satisfied, because the selection is good. I cannot guess how you have selected these independent variable and the mediating variable. What I mean is, what I feel is that your analysis site has avoided the core of this study.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because the core of the study is the mediating effect.
Okay.
In addition to that, your title does not align with the analysis and the findings, because in your title there is nothing mentioned about mediating variable.
Okay.
But there is a mediating variable in your model that can only be seen having observed your research model. That should be reflected in your title.
Okay.
And also, however, that's a good effort at this
I
level.
got what you said, yeah.
That's a good effort. You can get improved yourself if you are interested to do more research in your future life. I don't know. However, you have many possibilities to get improved. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Vasana Singh.
Thank you, and your comments are very valuable for future improvement. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Then this is the time, as I think, for us to go for the next presentation. Now, this is what we have done, paper ID number 47. The next presentation is on the paper ID number 2, under the title Impact of Gender Dominance of Occupations on Career Choice of Undergraduates, Evidence from National University in Sri Lanka. Gender dominance of occupation on career choice of undergraduates. The study was done and presented here by Janani Dias and P.N. Gamage, right? Okay, Janani or Gamage or both of you ready for the presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right, you can start now.
Dear everyone, I'm Janani Dias, a graduate from University of California. I conducted my research on the topic, the impact of gender dominance of occupations on career choice of undergraduates, evidence from a national university in Sri Lanka. This is the overview of my presentation. So when talking about the background of the study, people show a greater interest to choose occupations where their own gender is overrepresented. So as a result, occupational gender segregation is prevailing not only in Sri Lanka, but in the whole wide world. So this occupational gender segregation is mainly two types, as vertical segregation and horizontal segregation. So in my study, primary emphasis has been placed on horizontal segregation. So an example can be given to this gravity of horizontal segregation as teachers, nurses, receptionists are visualized as feminine jobs, whereas doctors, engineers as masculine jobs. So according to the diagram, currently employed persons by industry group and gender in Sri Lanka, women's predominated sectors are healthcare, elementary education, and domestic field, which we basically called as heat majors. And men's predominated sectors are science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, which we basically called as STEM majors. So as a result, gender-dominated occupations have been created. So this study mainly focuses on how this perception about gender dominance of occupations influence the career choice of undergraduates. So, so far, in recent studies, this research domain area has not been discussed, and also this has not been specifically discussed in Sri Lanka, and recent studies could not be found in around the globe as well. So the problem is occupations disregard the occupations where their own gender are underrepresented. So because of these labeled occupations as feminine jobs and masculine jobs, those have limited the career choices available to the people. And also they are very scared to go beyond the social acceptance. So the problem is, what is the impact of gender dominance of occupations on career choice of undergraduates? So these are the research questions that are discussed. And these are the research objectives, whereas the general objective is to assess the impact of gender dominance of occupations on career choice of undergraduates. And this has been specifically cascaded down into these specific objectives as well. So these are the major findings from the literature review. So those keywords: career choice, gender dominance of occupations, and occupational gender stereotypes have been mentioned here. So this study basically tests whether there is a significant relationship between gender dominance of occupations and career choice of undergraduates. So this study is basically use the research approach of deductive And also, this is an explanatory study where survey strategy was used to collect primary data using a self-administered online questionnaire. And this is a cross-sectional study where the unit of analysis is individual undergraduate. So as the population, undergraduates in state universities in Sri Lanka was used, and the sample was third and final year undergraduates studying in the University of Kelaniya. Sampling technique is convenience sampling technique, and the sample size is 113. So this is a summary of the responses. So the dependent variable of career choice was assessed using standard measurement scale in a 5-point Likert scale, but there was no any standard measurement scale for the independent variable of gender dominance of occupation. So the researcher created a set of descriptive questions by taking attributes of that variable. So these are the results of the preliminary data analysis. So as you can see in the reliability, Cronbach alpha values of both career choice and gender dominance of occupations are greater than 0.7, as well as their dimensions are also greater than 0.7, except for the dimension of problem solving. But the researcher disregarded it as it doesn't impact the Cronbach value of the composite variable. Like in reliability, in validity also, KMO values are greater than 0.7, except for the dimensions of goal selection and problem solving. It was also disregarded since they do not impact the composite variables value. And then normality is checked. So the skewness and kurtosis between +3 and -3. So we can conclude that data are normally distributed. This normality is also checked through one sample Kolmogorov-Smirnov test. So since sig value is greater than 0.01, we can conclude that data are normally distributed. So according to the scatter plot, the researcher determined that the relationship between career choice and gender dominance of occupations is approximately linear. And also, when talking about the findings, the first hypothesis can be tested through correlation analysis. And since there is an approximately linear relationship, Pearson correlation was used to assess the correlation. So the results indicated that the value is 0.626. So it indicated that there is a strong positive correlation between career choice and gender dominance of occupations. So the first hypothesis is accepted. And the second hypothesis can be tested through regression analysis. The results implied that gender dominance of occupations has 39.2% impact on career choice of undergraduates. So the second hypothesis is also accepted. So through this study, there are several recommendations that can be given to many parties. So the first party is undergraduates. So it is recommended for the undergraduates not to consider gender as a criterion when choosing a career, and not to determine the suitability of the jobs based on the gender. And also we should place a special emphasis on the talent, knowledge, and skills when selecting the career avenues. And also it is recommended for the parents and teachers to develop the personality of their children, students, not to see any difference between jobs in terms of gender, and a culture should be created where talent is given a place when choosing careers, and also they should not let their stereotypical perceptions affect the children. Also, existing employees can reconsider the decisions that they made subject into traditional schema. And organizations can redesign their practices by excluding gender-biased judgments. And policymakers can formulate new policies and revise existing policies to alleviate this overall occupational segregation. Also, while conducting this study, there are several limitations that had to be faced. So since perception regarding gender dominance of occupations were assessed, so it might lead to biases and perceptual errors. and there were no standard measurements here to assess the gender dominance of occupations, and difficulty in generalizing the study findings based on the small portion of population, and difficulty in collecting responses, and inability in accessing data resources, and only survey strategy was used for data collection were some of the limitations that were faced. Also, there are some guidances that can be given to the future researchers. So it is recommended to move towards a substantial population by considering undergraduates from both national universities and private universities. Whereas, and moreover, this qualitative analysis can be done by interviewing some of the professionals in the related those HEED majors and STEM majors. And also it is recommended to conduct researches on the impact of those unexplained factors on career choice of undergraduates. So as concluding remarks, it can be said that this study was conducted by drawing attention to under-researched domain of occupational segregation, and that is horizontal segregation of occupation. And people still show great interest to occupations where their own gender is overrepresented. And this perception about gender dominance of occupations highly influence the career choice of undergraduates. And still, these stereotypes of occupations as feminine and masculine jobs are persisting in the current society. So the study findings are there is a strong positive correlation between gender dominance of occupations and career choice of undergraduates, and gender dominance of occupations significantly affect the career choice of undergraduates. So these are the key references I used. And thank you all for attentively listening to my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Janani. I think you are a student of CIPM.
No, sir. I'm a graduate from University of California.
Okay, right. However, at the student level of a student, your research is methodologically and technically sound. All right, that should be appreciated. The flow of a research has been maintained from the beginning to end. That should be appreciated. However, I have a few questions. Yes, but before that, I would like to invite first the audience. Yes. For any clarification, if there is no, yes, I'd like to invite our chair, Dr. Jairani.
Yeah, Professor. Then I know I agree with you. Then Miss Janani present well. It was very actually very nicely present. Then further she has followed methodology very well. Then there are a number of analytical techniques also very clearly explain the process she followed. Then when we consider the Miss Janani, you consider which kind of gaps? Then under your slide, then there are a number of research gaps.
There were actually literature gap, contextual gap, and time gaps. Into the literature, I could find those gaps.
This topic is very much popular among the young in our university students in the gender dominance and the occupation selection. Then I like to suggest the population gap also needed to consider. When we consider the population and then when we consider the generalization, then different generalized in our situation. Then therefore the population gap is also need to consider.
Okay.
The objectives, then you had number of objectives also. How many objectives with you?
There was one general objective and around 7 specific objectives.
Then I think, then can't you see it? Then can't you draw the slide? Then objectives, then to identify the factors affecting to horizontal gender segregation, they identify factors affecting to choice of the, then okay, then there are a number of objectives. I think then if you can limit the number of objectives, it is good. Then further, then when we consider the method, analytical techniques, why you applied the KMO and Bartlett test for this study?
That is to, yes, madam. That is to check the validity of the questionnaire, madam.
Then, okay. Then what is about the level of the generalizability of your study?
Generalizability as in, actually I took only the sample from University of California. So that's why I mentioned in my limitations also, there's a sort of a limitation where it's not that much of sufficient to generalize to the undergraduates in the whole country as well as whole universities. So that limitation is there.
I think, yeah, if you could touch several other universities also, then I think it is generalizable to the country level.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Then, okay, thank you for, thank you, Ms. Janani. Then, okay, Professor.
Thank you, madam, for the comments.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah.
Yes, Ms. Janani,
yes.
I have very simple clarification from you. Can you tell me simply under this title what you wanted to study?
I wanted to study the perception of undergraduates towards this career choice, like perception of gender dominance of occupation towards the career choice. So I just wanted to get an idea about their perception.
Perceptions, right?
Yeah.
Perceptions of gender dominance on their career choice.
Yes,
right?
sir. Yeah.
Okay, then as I said, the flow of your research and the methodology you used sound actually sound when we consider your level of research and as a student actually. But I found out some deviation in one place, as Dr. Jairani said, in the objectives. You have number of objectives, right? I think 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then, however, when you come to the hypothesis, I can find out many of these objectives were somewhat descriptive in nature, and find out the degree and other some descriptive type of objectives. However, when you come to the hypothesis, you have only 2 hypotheses. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes. Then the place you have, the place where you have deviated slightly from the flow of your research is that when you come to the analysis part and the conclusion part, you have forgot some of the specific objectives that you have listed under the title of objectives, because you have not given enough justification, enough explanations on the set objectives, set specific objectives. I felt that some of these objectives were just set and listed under the title of objectives, and you left them out.
Yes.
So that's what I felt, right? Because at the latter side of your study, you have not even discuss about some of your specific objectives that you have listed. Okay, Janni?
Yes, sir.
Because that's a place where you have somewhat deviated from your study, right? You have left the focus. Because if you, as Dr. Janra said, if you cannot limit it to very, very important few testable hypotheses and objectives, achievable objectives, then the research will be more specific and focusing. That specificity and focusing will improve the validity of your findings. Okay.
Yes.
Otherwise, your focus of the research has deviated at your objectives. You can make them correct in your future research. And also, since you have followed the methodology well, if you were able to cover at least another university, few universities within the country, the generalizability of your findings may be higher. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Janani, and good luck.
Thank you, sir, for the comments.
Right. Okay, then let's go to the next researcher. Bearing the paper ID number 63. Yes, he is Mr. Ravindra Day. I don't know I correctly pronounce your name, the last name, Mr. Ravindra.
Yeah, it's correct. Ravindra Day.
Ravindra Day, right. Mr. Ravindra Day, you are going to present on the title of Future Career Opportunities for MBA Students in the current context of global crisis due to COVID-19. Again, the currently important topic, Mr. Day. You can start presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Ravindra Day, and I head organization behavior at an institution called as Xavier Institute of Management and Research, Mumbai, India. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to present a paper in this esteemed conference. And I will share my screen so that you are able to see the presentation. Okay, the paper which I'm going to talk about is on future career opportunities for MBA students in the current context of global crisis due to COVID-19 pandemic situation. I have been in this teaching profession full-time now for the past 10 years, and I've been teaching to B school for the past 25 years. And believe me, I have not seen this kind of situation, what we are seeing now because of this COVID-19 pandemic situation. It has impacted in a very big way as far as the job market or the career opportunities are concerned for those who are going to graduate out of the B schools. So this study is all about that, and the presentation is going to be in this particular fashion. We will first have the objectives of the study. We will then talk about the literature review, research methodology and data collection, research model, data analysis, findings and conclusion, and lastly, references. So the objective of the study, as I said, that, because of this pandemic situation, there are a lot of crises which we are experiencing, and education sector has been very, very badly impacted due to this particular pandemic situation. So this study is going to measure the impact of COVID-19 on the job market for the first year students and the PGDBM students, because in about a year or so, they will be in the market searching for jobs. So we would like to see in terms of what extra courses and opportunity provided by the institutes will help them to develop new skill and overcome the COVID-19 crisis and be fully prepared as far as the job market is concerned in the future. To also see what kind of new mindset, skills, and knowledge students need to develop on their own to be better employable post-COVID. These are the few objectives as far as the study is concerned. We also felt a need that we will do a literature review. We are experiencing this particular situation barely 15 to 18 months now. And, whatever we could figure out in the last, couple of months, whatever study has been carried out, we tried to study about that particular thing. And it clearly, correlated with, how the situation was during the Great Recession period. What we experienced sometime in 2002, this kind of situation. And I think currently, we are impacted in a very, very big way. The employment market has been very, very badly hit. It has impacted the economic activities. Various sectors has been impacted, like what we can see in the study of Kumar 2020. The automotive sector, the transportation, FMCG, IT obviously has been a very, very badly hit kind of thing. And as I was talking, the way we have seen in 2002, same situation, we are experiencing where we are trying to preserve our cash, reduce our expenses, organizations are very skeptical in terms of their growth plans and so on. Many students express concern about their future employment prospects, as we have seen in the study of Sinobi Marico 2021. Understanding job search during this time for several regions, it is crucial to have a complete picture of the extraordinary economic event what we are having, and try to see what changes we can bring out in the institution and within the students. Since the job market is low, this is an opportunity for the MBA student to develop their marketable skills so that they are ready to find a great job, good job, post the crisis is over. This is what has been seen in the study of Kowalski 2020. So across the globe, this has been felt, and this study is based on whatever we have understood from the literature review, and we tried to capture the data, the primary data, on both the aspects of qualitative and quantitative. The sample size has been not so huge, but 121 students. We just wanted to have some sample study being done for this particular area or research. And, it was almost 50-50, you can say. 62 students were male and 59 were female. And we also tried to see in terms of, students with different categories under experience, so freshers, 1 to 2 years and more than 3 years. But all were, first year MBA students. And from the qualitative, what we felt is what is required from two perspectives, soft skills and the technical and the functional. Soft skills, I think the problem solving and communication has come out to be the most important area. And from the technical or the functional, we felt that MS Office has to be, though this is very fundamental, but I think it is a very important data that, if we want to get confidence and the competence level, we need to definitely acquire this soft skills and the technical skills. There are other skills which also came, which as a result of this particular study, such as in soft skills such as adaptability, teamwork, confidence, emotional intelligence, time management, negotiation skills, management skills, leadership, interpersonal skills, attitude, presentation skills, stress management. And the other technical or the functional, obviously, depending on your specialization, you need to be good in your functional area, whether it is HR, marketing, finance, information technology. Digital or digitalization has been the most important. So whatever we came across like coding, Java, Python, but I think one aspect which is a given thing that you need to be digitally very strong if you want to survive or if you want to have a better chance as far as your job or career opportunity is concerned. Then we developed this particular research model where we were trying to see the relationship between the competencies which you gain through your MBA studies and how it has an impact of or how it has a relationship of acquired new skills, extrinsic support by the institution, and networking. So the three hypotheses which was formed is mentioned over here, the three null hypotheses. The first null hypothesis, development of new skills, does not positively correlate with competencies and the level of confidence acquired through MBA studies. The second null hypothesis, extrinsic support by the institution, does not positively correlate with the competencies and the level of confidence acquired through MBA studies. And the third null hypothesis is networking does not positively correlate with competencies and the level of confidence acquired through MBA studies. And what we did is, we collected the data using Google Forms, and we got those particular data in MS Excel. And subsequently, we used the SPSS for doing the further statistical analysis, and interpretations were drawn basis that. This is, one of the major outcome as far as the study is concerned. And we tried to see in terms of the relationship of the competencies and the confidence acquired during your MBA studies with the development of new skills, extrinsic support, and networking. That's what we saw in the three hypotheses. And very interestingly, what we can see in this particular table is there's a strong relationship between the new skills acquired and the competencies acquired during your MBA studies, extrinsic support provided and the competencies and confidence acquired during your MBA studies. However, very interestingly, we always feel that networking helps you in terms of developing your competencies and your confidence level, but it is not true. This data very clearly says that, what is required is the new skills, which we have already seen in terms of the problem solving, communications, and so on. And the support provided by the institution is more important. The networking has no relationship. Thereby, we reject the first two hypotheses and we accept that there is no relationship or the third hypothesis, what we have said, networking does not positively correlate with competencies. And so we accept that particular thing. So what comes out as a study of this thing is development of new skills and extrinsic support are important factor for the student to get a better job opportunity in this crisis. Networking does not have an impact on the competency and confidence level of the student. So it may help in some extent, but the study very clearly says that you have to develop new skills and the institute has to provide that requisite support so that students get that kind of confidence. And we have seen in this particular pandemic that there is no face-to-face situation. You are not able to meet the faculties in person. You are not able to judge what the student is gaining to that particular extent. Job interviews, what we have seen in the last year also has been done online. So, all these things are very important for the institution to keep a note and ensure that those skills are being provided to the students so that, students are well prepared for the interviews and are able to, get a job very easily. Also, they should not just rely only on the institution. The various skills which is required, if those skills like problem solving, communication, working in a team and things like that, if those things are not being provided by the institution, they need to develop on their own because ultimately it is their career, their future. If they are able to work on those particular things, only then they will be able to have a better career opportunities post-COVID situation. So they have to prepare from now. They may be in the first year, but they have to prepare from now so that they are able to be in a better position. Competition is going to be very severe. Job opportunities are going to be less. So in that particular situation, if you don't prepare yourself for that particular situation, you will find it difficult to get a job. That's all from my side as far as this particular paper is concerned. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to present this particular paper. And I'm looking forward to answer to any questions if there is as far as this particular paper is concerned. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good
Thank you, Mr. Day, for your timely study and also the nice presentation. I'd like to invite first the audience, if there are any clarification from Mr. Day, Dr. Day. Yes, if not, yes, Dr. Jairani, please.
Yes, Professor. Then, Dr. Day, I appreciate your presentation, and your slides preparation is very interactive way. Then you have prepared all the things. Then I appreciate.
Thank you.
Then your research methodology is also interest. The mixed method you have applied. Then all the things are okay according to my view. Then can you explain what kind of limitation you faced with this study?
Yeah, I think one of the major limitation was the sample size what was collected, and again it was not limited to only one institute, but just because I am in an institution where I teach, so 70% of the data was from one institute, and only about 30% was from some other institute. So I think that becomes a major limitation in terms of the whole study is concerned. May not be the results will be very, very different, but I think the qualitative aspect, what would have come from a wide range of responses from other institutions would have added more value to this particular study. I think that's a major limitation I felt as far as this study is concerned. The sample size and the spread in terms of the people who gave the responses.
Yeah. Okay. What are the further study area with your study?
So this I would like to not only limit it to Mumbai, but also spread across the country, and then if I have reach in global this thing, then also get some responses globally to also understand holistically, because MBA is not something done in a particular country. It's management study is being done across the globe. So if there can be some way where I can get data from globally, or at least if I can compare with some other nation, this might be useful, and the study might be much more worth, and possibly we can get some inputs where the B school can immediately implement those particular things for the future betterment of the students.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, doctor. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Ravind Day. And for your presentation, nice presentation, and also the timely study that you have done. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Then, yes, simply let me know what are the main key findings that you can highlight, which will be very important under this pandemic era.
Yeah. So
yes.
I think very important thing is the skills which is required for getting better prepared. So what this study says very clearly, because when we have a very fixed kind of skills, then the participants are not able to express in terms of whatever they may have. So in this particular thing, because of the qualitative questions being asked, they had the liberty to put down what they felt will help. So I think one of the major this thing which could be seen as a good, I would not say excellent outcome, but a good outcome in terms of problem solving, problem solving and communication are two most important this thing which should be developed by the students. And I think institutions, the second finding will be the institution also needs to provide that extra support to the students, because now students are not able to access the library and go to the faculty on one-on-one. So I think these two things are very important, because what I also saw that people talk about that networking is very important in terms of getting a job. However, this study very clearly says that if you are able to acquire certain new skills, that might definitely help you to be more better future ready. I felt this could be maybe a very small input, but that might definitely help the B school to prepare the students well for the future.
Okay, Mr. Day, then you mean that the current skills under the COVID pandemic, the current skills will not be valid to some extent after the COVID pandemic, is it? The students need new skills.
Students need additional skills. So whatever is being provided,
additional skills. Okay.
Additional skills, So because whatever is provided is okay.
Right.
They want more inputs.
Okay. Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Day. Thank you. Okay, let's go to the next presentation. Mr. Sajid, is the number 10 ready?
Yes, sir. Please.
Okay. Right. Let's start, Mr. Ajit. Now we are over on the time, right? Right. Okay. Let's see the number 10. That is presented by Nuwan Galagedara and T.D. Veerasinghe. The title, Impact of Employment Engagement of Job Satisfaction, a study of the employees of leading 5-star hotel in Sri Lanka. Yes, you can start.
Ayubowan everybody, I am Tarindu Veerasinghe, here to present a study of the employees working in a 5-star hotel in Sri Lanka on the impact of employee engagement on job satisfaction. So this is the presentation outline, starting from the background of the study, then research problem, up to some of the key references. In the selected organization, we observed through the results of the engagement survey, year by year, the level of employee engagement is being deteriorating, decreasing. And also through some of the symptoms like increasing number of customer complaints reported in the organization and increasing number of disciplinary inquiries, especially due to the insubordination of employees reported in that particular hotel, and delivery delays, service quality drops, and also especially increasing number of employee resignations. So then we started reading literature and found that those symptoms are reported as the symptoms of job dissatisfaction and employee engagement issues in the extant literature. At the same time, on the other hand, competition in the service industry, especially in the hotel and tourism sector, and ever-changing expectations of the customers pressurize the industry and the employees working in that particular industry to commit and engage more and more than ever before. So having understood all these symptoms and the extant evidence in the literature, we raised the research question like this: what is the impact of employee engagement on job satisfaction of employees, with special reference to this selected 5-star hotel in Sri Lanka? And these are the research objectives. General objective is to assess the impact of employee engagement on employee job satisfaction. To support the achievement of this general objective, here we have established 5 specific objectives, starting from UC assessing the level of both variables, employee engagement and job satisfaction, then to assess the strength of association, and specifically with the support of literature to assess the impact of employee engagement on intrinsic satisfaction and extrinsic satisfaction separately. So we found plenty of literature evidence and some theoretical explanations as well. When employees are contributing beyond their employment contract, it is the engagement in simple terms. There are many comprehensive definitions more than this. Employees willingly dedicate their efforts and contributions, and they connect with others with the purpose of the well-being of the company and other stakeholders if they are engaged. Also, on the other hand, the dependent variable in our study, job satisfaction, was defined operationally in our study as the collection of positive and favorable attitudes towards the job, which includes three basic elements: cognitive element, affective element, and behavioral element. And intrinsic satisfaction, the major first dimension, then extrinsic satisfaction. Intrinsic satisfaction arises when one's job expectations meet perception. But extrinsic satisfaction arises when one's rewards meet his or her needs or requirements. And there is an interesting research finding in literature as given in this slide. Engaged employees are intrinsically satisfied. However, the debate is still not continued properly whether the engaged employees are satisfied or satisfied employees are engaged. It is still a debate in the extant literature. However, we found some domestic literature as well, like Purnima and Shalini 2012 found a positive association between these two variables, especially in service industries. And Sachs 2006 found that employee engagement has a significant positive impact on job satisfaction. So there are other literature as well in other countries, specifically for service industries. So having considered all these evidence in literature, this is the conceptual framework and accordingly develop hypotheses. Here employee engagement is taken as the independent variable and job satisfaction as the dependent variable, which is the problem variable. And job satisfaction is operationalized as a multidimensional construct using intrinsic satisfaction and extrinsic satisfaction. Employee engagement was operationalized as a unidimensional variable. Accordingly, there are three hypotheses advanced to test the impact of employee engagement on intrinsic satisfaction, the first dimension, then on extrinsic satisfaction, which is the second dimension of the job satisfaction as considered in the current study, and then the third hypothesis to assess the impact of employee engagement on the dependent variable job satisfaction. And this was a deductive study in which researcher interference was minimal, and this was carried out as a cross-sectional field study. On the other hand, this is a quantitative explanatory study in which we try to establish a cause and effect relationship. And unit of analysis was at individual level, an individual employee working in the selected 5-star hotel. And the population of the current study comprises 74 employees working in the selected organization. Adopting the universal sampling technique, entire population was considered as the study sample, irrespective of the demographic differences. So simple N, sample size equals 74, which is considered the universal sampling, in which we consider the whole population into the study sample. And primary data collection was based on the standard questionnaire adapted from two sources, as recommended by Hayter et al. 2013. Gallup Q12 world famous employee engagement questionnaire was used to assess the level of employee engagement, and Minnesota satisfaction questionnaire, which is very popular and widely used questionnaire in extant literature, used to assess the dependent variable in which both intrinsic and extrinsic satisfaction are considered. And the used questionnaire comprised of 3 sections as given in this slide. Questionnaire was directly distributed as a printed document to the sample, 74 employees, which was in English. Also, it has met the acceptable level of validity and reliability, which has been proven through a pilot study conducted among 12 employees in the same organization. And collected primary data were analyzed using SPSS and Excel. Exploratory fact analysis used to ensure and check for the construct validity, and internal consistency coefficient of contract alpha used for reliability analysis. And normality and linearity basically test that is under multivariate assumptions. Then correlation analysis was performed to assess the strength of association between variables, and simple regression analysis was done to check the advanced hypothesis, where p-value was used to test the hypothesis ultimately and coming to the conclusion. Residual analysis was employed for the whole variable job satisfaction, that means for the H3 hypothesis, to test the model fitness. Sample composition was like this. It is a male dominant sample in which 76% was represented by males, and also 75% of the respondents were single. But these demographic details was not considered for analysis, just to explain the sample profile. So here, this is the reliability statistics. All the dimensions and the composite variables and the Cronbach alpha reliability coefficient was among the threshold level of 0.7. And also in the validity test, factor loading values obtained from the exploratory factor analysis for each and every item for dimensions and also for the composite variables above 0.7, and also extraction sums of squared loadings for the dimensions and the composite variable above 50%. Coming to the conclusion that the used measurement scales were valid and reliable enough, and we can proceed with further analysis. So this is the descriptive statistics. You see the mean value and the standard deviation. SD is within -3 and +3, which is accepted. And also job satisfaction 3.09, which is moderately high. Employee engagement is moderate according to the mean values. So this is the correlation metrics, because we had an objective to assess the strength of association. Employee engagement correlated with job satisfaction and also the two dimensions of the job satisfaction significantly. All these correlation coefficients are significant at 0.01 level, and the correlation coefficients shows a positive moderate correlation between variables. Then moving on to the regression statistics, R-square values we use to determine the impact of the independent variable employee engagement on 3 dependent variables. Employee engagement impact 54.2% on intrinsic job satisfaction, and on extrinsic job satisfaction 57.4%. And ultimately, for the whole variable job satisfaction, 62.0% of the variance of job satisfaction in the tested domain could be explained through employee engagement. And also all these R-square values are significant, and we use the linear regression enter method to determine this impact. And this is the coefficient table. All the independent variables on the dependent variable for 3 hypotheses, both the constant to be included in the equation and the independent factor is significant. Look at the sig value of all 3 tables. Sig value is less than 0.05, and unstandardized coefficients of beta we use to develop the equation, regression equation. Right. So depending on these statistical analysis, we can coming to the conclusion that relationships of employee engagement with intrinsic, extrinsic, and job satisfaction as a whole are significant, and positive moderate correlation we found. The employees who have intrinsic job satisfaction tend to take responsibilities and make sacrifice towards organizational growth. We got that as well in the impact analysis, regression statistics. If the engagement itself becomes a source of job satisfaction, then intrinsic satisfaction is more crucial according to statistics. And engaged employees are satisfied. So there are two schools of thoughts, whether engaged employees are satisfied or satisfied employees are engaged. But here, validating the first group of thoughts in the classical school, we validate it again through the current study. Engaged employees are satisfied. So all the hypotheses advanced in the current study were statistically accepted. Depending on the conclusion and the finding, these are some of the recommendations that we can suggest to maintain open two-way communication in extant literature, which is considered a major part in enhancing intrinsic satisfaction of people and get their engagement, and ensuring the work clarity. We can improve the level of engagement, which in turn positively affect on job satisfaction. Improved accountability of people, employees, through proper channels in the hierarchy, and mentoring and reverse mentoring as well. Not only mentoring enough in a service organization, but let the seniors to learn things from juniors as well. It's like experience sharing, having more forums for them to socialize and to share their knowledge, and recognizing the contribution and providing more extrinsic rewards as well, focusing on extrinsic satisfaction. And a given margin for creativity is important for them. With the support of extant literature, we can clearly say if margin given for the creativity for employees, they engage much. Finally, especially during the post-pandemic of COVID-19, health, safety, and well-being, and the given facilities to ensure a high level of health, safety, and well-being for this time employees during this type of a post-pandemic will improve the engagement level and positively impact on employee job satisfaction. Okay, that's it. So these are the key references, and thank you very much. Clarifications are welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Veerasinghe. You are very nice presentation. And also I'd like to comment that your research, your study is methodologically and technically very sound. And you have covered all the areas that should be covered in a study at this level. And I have one question, Mr. Veerasinghe.
Okay, sir.
You have taken your dependent variable as a multidimensional concept.
Yes.
Two-dimensional, I think, right? Then have you taken these two dimensions as two variables or as a one variable?
Sir, in the operationalization, according to the Minnesota questionnaire that we used, it is one variable, but within the variable, there are two dimensions for which clearly identified items are predefined in the measurement scale and the operationalization. So as a direct answer for your question, what I can say is it is a one variable within which we have two dimensions, but in the literature, to advance separate hypotheses for dimensions also, there are enough literature. So that's why we developed two hypotheses for dimensions as well.
Okay, that means you have considered in your study these two dimensions as two variables.
Yes, for the analysis as two subvariables within that job satisfaction.
Okay, then when you have two dependent to criterion variables, what is the method you use to analyze the impact of the independent variable on two dependent variables? Multiple regression or?
No, simple regression, because to run the multiple regression considering two dimensions, it is then MANOVA basically according to parametric testing, but we cannot run MANOVA because independently literature support for the association.
Okay, right, good. Therefore, you you have run the simple
regression separately.
Right, correct. Okay, all right. Then yes, Miss Jairani, Dr. Jairani.
Yeah, okay, Professor. Then very good presentation, Mr. Veerasinghe.
Thank you, madam.
Yeah, I appreciate. And then I think if you add some findings from the hotels industry, it is good. Then they are to highlight the research gap. Then you need to add further details from the hotel industry.
Right. Okay.
Then I also faced some problem with the operationalization. Then if you add a slide for the operationalization also, I think it is good.
Like a operationalization table, no, madam.
Yeah, table.
Right.
Then you need to add the operationalization part. Further, then I need to add a point before the regression analysis. Normally we do the multivariate assumptions, no? In the normality, linearity, homoscedasticity, and multicollinearity.
Yes.
I think better to add those assumptions also before running the regression.
Actually, we tested for multivariate assumptions. That is not given in the slideshow. Yes, as you said, it's better to insert some of the statistics relating to that, no?
Yeah, it is good. Then,
right.
Further in your objectives, then the level of employee engagement. Then those are the things no need to mention. Then from the calculation, we generate those things, level of perception.
Yes.
Then these things, I think it is not necessary to mention. The most important objectives, then we need to add in our research paper. Right. Then okay, then appreciate your effort, then I congratulate.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. Okay. And sir, thank you.
Okay, sweet thing, Tarindu. Right, okay, then Mr. Sajid, may I brief and wind up the session?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I would like to warmly welcome you all to please switch on the camera and get ready for the final photos. While that, before wind up the presentations of this session, I would like to warmly invite dear professor, before concluding that one, to give some comments to the overall to our presenters.
Okay, sure. Yes, today we had a very good session under very critical track. I think that is the future of work. When we consider an institute like CIPM, that is a track or that is area where you have to be very much interested in the current time, because you know, in addition to this pandemic time, you know that there is some digital revolution coming that we have to face, especially that will be affected to the future work. Say, for example, in 25 to 2030, the artificial intelligence, 3D printing, robotic technology, and other number of new technologies are coming to the organizations, and there is a revolution in the skills. As some of the researchers presented, there is rethinking of the skills that need for the current employees, because in one of my study, I understood that there are many jobs to be disappeared within next 8 to 10 years. But do not worry about that, because new jobs that need new skills are coming in. Therefore, we have to rethink about the skills to be inculcated in the people. That is why I said this track name, the future of work, is very, very important title and the area. When we talk about the today's session, there were very good mix-up of the research studies, and also the presenters were at a very good level, and their studies were at good level, though there were some weaknesses in their studies. Those can be rectified in their future studies, as we commented. And we had a very good input today under this track. That is what I want to appreciate. That's why I wanted to appreciate all the presenters and studies they have done, all have done well. And I would like to congratulate all of the presenters. And finally, before winding up my briefing, I would like to have a big thank on my co-chair, Dr. Jairani Ramavikrama. She is also, yesterday only I know that she is also from my university, that I took my bachelor degree. Actually, I want to have a big thank, and also for the nice coordination. Yes, Mr. Tandu. Yes, Sajid. I'm sorry. Yes, for the nice coordination of the track and the session. I convey you a big thank. Okay. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much, dear sir. The time is open for Dr. Jairani, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Harshana. Then I also highly appreciate this session. As Professor mentioned, this is a very good composition. Some students were here, and some lecturers were presented. Therefore, I got a good experience according to my situation. And the professor also gave a good comments. And then I got a good experience from that. Therefore, I highly appreciate. And thanks for all the things, coordination, and all the things are okay. Then I appreciate, and I congratulate to all for the success. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I would like to warmly welcome, and I would like to warmly appreciate it if you can switch on your camera and get ready for the our group photo. Okay, that is all. Thank you. Let's wind up this session as officially. We have now come up to the end of the track number 3 under the technical session of the 5th CIPM International Research Symposium on HRM in 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, organized by the Standing Committee on Applied Research and Knowledge Center, the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management in Sri Lanka. Before we conclude, I wish to express my humble gratitude to the chairperson of the track, dear Professor HMA Hera, and the co-chair, Dr. Jairani Ramavikrama, for sparing their valuable time joining with us today despite their very busy schedule. I'm sure the comments and suggestions made by you are beneficial for the authors and presenters who joined with us today. Then I would also like to thank each presenter for the cooperation and support extended to conduct this session on the virtual platform. Next, I would like to invite you to join with the case study presentation session. It is going with now, and which is novel and valuable features of the conference this time. Also, you are invited to stay with us for for the validations of the sessions as well. I would like to, which is started for the 4:30 p.m. as the names of the best presenter and best author will be announced in there. Please use the main hall Zoom link to join the two session. And I kindly request the chairperson and the co-chair to remain as we need to finalize the result of the best presenter in the today presentation. Now, dear presenters, you can leave from the session, and thank you very much once again. And beside, I would like to thank you, all the coordinators, Sparks, and the IT sessions coordinators for great help. Thank you very much. Have a good day and be safe.
Thank you, Sajid.
Thank you, Sajid. Thank you.
Except the chair professor and the chair. So other presenters, you can leave now and you can join with our next session.
Will Mr. Sajid?
Okay, sure. Hello, ma'am, and the professor.
Yeah.
We want to finalize the best presenter.
Yeah, then I need to send your marks one by one, or then how I need to give you.
You can get a photo, and if you wish, you can email me.
Yeah, I will email.
Okay. How about the professor?
Let me have 1 minute, Sajid.
Sure.